بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So Mu'adh bin Jabal Radhi-Allahu anhu and Tha'alaba bin Ghanama Radhi-Allahu anhu both asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam about the reality behind the different phases of the moon, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayahs of Quran Kareem that we recited yesterday from Surah Baqarah, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ وَالْحَجِّ, which means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the moon for us to measure our time, but also for us to be true servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by upholding the deen of Allah, which means fulfilling the orders of Allah, Hajj, Zakat, and Hajj goes by the moon. That's the way we know that the month of Dhul Hijjah has begun. And likewise, the pillar of fasting in month of Ramadan is also established by the phases of the moon. And in that way, we could say even that the sun is also, the reality of the sun is that it helps us understand when we should pray salah. So just like the moon is the whole reason for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creating the different phases of the moon is for us to establish the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to establish the pillars of Islam, to know our times for the different months. Likewise, the sun Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for us to pray the 5 times salah. That's the haqiqah behind all these things. Anything else you want to get into, do research about the sun, research about the moon, that's all good and great, but this is the reality. This is the reality. And if you don't understand that reality and you know everything you need to know about the sun, you know everything you need to know about the moon, there's no point of learning all that information. People have gone to the moon, settled down on the moon, Hanji, for a few days, or I don't know, for an hour or two, picked up a rock from there, mapped it, surveyed it, and then came back, right? And one of those rocks that they brought is on exhibit in one of the museums here, I think.
No, it's on sale.
It's on sale. So, but I mean, if the haqiqat behind the creation of the moon is not understood, then what's the purpose behind all these things? Neil Armstrong went up to the moon, but he still didn't accept Islam, still didn't understand the reality behind why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created these galaxies and the Milky Way and the moon and the stars and the sun. Right? And likewise, even the rustling of the leaf, the movement of the leaf. Like, what is the purpose behind a leaf? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Quran Kareem, عِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has knowledge of the unseen. Everything is known to Allah. Nothing is hidden from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. مَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا. The leaf on a tree, it rustles, and the wind blows, and it falls to the ground. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that. Somewhere in the middle of a jungle, somewhere far away, where there's no human beings, no civilization. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that. إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا وَلَا حَبَّةٍ فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْأَرْضِ. And there's no seed deep in the layers of the earth where it's really, really, really dark. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that as well. So everything in creation, the takwini umur, are all created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us to recognize Him and for us to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one of the important lessons we learn from a question that was posed by Mu'adh bin Jabal Radhi-Allahu anhu to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed an ayah of Quran which tells us the importance of the question itself. The question was important enough that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed an ayah of Quran Kareem about it. Reflection. This is reflection, right? الَّذِينَ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. One of the signs of a believer is he does a lot of tafakkur, deliberating and contemplating over the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. في خلق السماوات والأرض, in the skies and the earth. And he comes to the one conclusion, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. Oh Allah, you did not create this without reason. So this is what Mu'adh bin Jabal Radhi-Allahu anhu was looking at the different phases of the moon. There's got to be a reason behind this. What is the reason behind this? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this is the reason behind it. And if we think about it, we'll find a reason behind everything, but all those reasons lead to one point. The purpose is to recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the final reason for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creating all creation. Do tafakkur, contemplate over things. But the conclusion that you should reach is that the purpose behind this is for us to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and get closer to Him. So Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu was fulfilling that ayah of Quran Kareem as well. يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Those who contemplate over the skies and the creation in the skies and the earth. And say, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. There's a rawaya. Let's go on to the next story. There's a rawaya narrated by Abu Musa Ashari radhiyallahu anhu. It's in a hadith of Sahih Muslim. He says, I came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam one day, and with me were two people from my tribe, Ash'aris. Right? And these Ash'aris we mentioned earlier were Yemenis. Right? So I came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam with these two Yemeni brothers from my tribe. One was on my right, wal-akhir an yasari, and the other one was on my left. And as soon as they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they said, Ya Rasulullah, can you please give us position? Meaning a big position they wanted, like make us a governor or make us a amil, right? Some government job, a big job. So Abu Musa radhiyallahu anhu did not know that these two people had come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with that intention. They had not even told him that they're going to ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that give us some position, give us some job that we can do. But they wanted a job with status, so they could become big government officials, right? So Abu Musa Ash'ari then felt really ashamed, because it was a sign of love for dunya. And that was something he himself would never do. Never even cross his mind to ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam such a question. It was embarrassing for him. He was embarrassed. So he says Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was using his miswak and cleaning his teeth at the time, and he turned towards me and he said, Ma taqulu ya Abu Musa, what's your opinion about what they're saying? He wanted to know where Abu Musa Ash'ari was with this. Like, are you of the same way of thinking? See, this is how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do tarbiyah of the Sahaba. You check them out. Right? He says, Ma taquli ya Aba Musa. He said, I said, وَالَّذِي بَعَثَ بِالْحَقِّ. I swear by the one who has sent you with haqq, مَا أَطْلَعَانِ عَلَى مَا فِي أَنفُسِهِمَا. They did not tell me what was in their hearts when they came. Meaning, I'm embarrassed that they even came with me and even asked you this question, Ya Rasulullah. In other words, I would never even ask such a question. I would be too embarrassed. And Ya Allah, this is wrong. Ya Rasulullah, this is wrong. وَمَا شَعَرْتُ أَنَّهُمَا يَطْلُبَانِ الْعَمَلِ. I did not know that they were going to ask for a job. Give me a government job. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, this is the rule. This is the rule of Islam in regards to giving a person or appointing a person a job in which they are responsible for others. Whether you're a treasurer, whether you're a president, whether you're a prime minister, whether you're a mayor, any type of job in which you're responsible for the affairs of people. So he says, لا نستعمل على عملنا من أراده. We never appoint a person to a job who wants that job. If you want it, then we'll never give it to you. It's for the person who doesn't want it that we give it to him. Why? The reason is mentioned in other hadith. If you want a job, that means your nafs is involved. And if your nafs is involved, then the nusra of Allah will not be with you. And you may cause corruption because your nafs is involved. Wherever nafs is going to be involved, there's going to be corruption. There's a famous dua. Rasulullah said, Allahumma la takilni ila nafsi tarfat ayn. Oh Allah, do not turn me over to my nafs for even a blink of an eye. Because it's enough for you to fall into fitna if you leave yourself to your nafs for a blink of an eye. For a blink of an eye. So these people have already entrusted themselves to their nafs. That they want it, that means I can't give it to them. Rasulullah ﷺ would only give positions to people who couldn't stand doing those type of jobs. And Sahaba Ridwanullahi Majma'in, never ever, especially the ones who are appointed, like Abu Bakr Siddiq for Khilafah, Umar ibn Khattab for Khilafah, these were people who couldn't stand doing the job that they were doing. Not the job itself, the position. There was a responsibility. Once they got the job, the responsibility, they took it and they fulfilled it. They fulfilled its haqq. But the position, they never liked the position of being a Khalifatul Muslimin. Because of the fear of getting corrupted. Right? So it's mentioned about Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu once, that once he was doing his work and a man came in. So Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, in his Khilafah, he had a time for everything during the day. There was a time where people came to him, they had their complaints, their issues. And then he had a time where he gave for himself, for his ma'mulat. And then there was a time where he had for his family. So there was time allotted for everything throughout the day. So a man came to him at a time when he was doing his ma'mulat, his daily dhikr or whatever he did at that time. Different types of adhkar and that he did at that time. So he came at that time. So Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu got very angry. So he had a whip in his hand and he took it and he just lightly knocked him on the shoulder, just grazed him on the shoulder. He said, when it's time, when I have a time set for you to come, you should come at that time. You always come at a different time and then you expect me to come in, address your issues. Go away. And then when he went back, this man went back, left the house. Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu felt so miserable. What did I just do? Who do I think I am? So he ran behind the man. He gave him the whip. He said, now you have to do the same thing back to me. He said, no, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I forgive you. He said, no, you got to do it. We have to be equal. I don't want you to take revenge on me on the day of judgment for this. So he said, no, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I forgive you. I said, okay. Then, instead of going back to where he was, doing his ma'mulat, he goes to the masjid. He prays 2 rak'ah, and then he starts talking to himself. He's doing his muhasabah. And he's scolding himself. Oh Umar, you are a noble person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you noble. You were this, Allah made you this. You were that, nothing, a kafir, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed you with iman. And look at you now, people come to you asking for justice, and you think you're all big, and you tell them I have times for everything? No. Remember your haqiqat, your reality. In other words, he felt that he acted the way he did because of his position. Even though that was not the case, but that's what he felt. That's because of my position, and it's getting to me. And he was scared. He was frightened that my nafs is taking over me. And so he's admonishing himself, scolding himself. How dare you do such a thing? Who are you? Who do you think you are? Look at what you were before and look at what you are now. So, anyhow, it's going off the topic, but this is the rule in Islam. Now we talk about democracy in Islam, right? Well, the democracy that is in practice right now, right? The democracy that's in practice right now where people fight for a seat and they campaign for it and they say, vote for me. That has no place in Islam. We don't completely negate that democracy has no place, but the way it's established, the methodology, that's totally incorrect. Because that way, the people you put into power will be always the ones who are most unworthy of it. They will be the ones who are completely controlled by their nafs. If you follow that way. Yes, the idea of people voting, there is proof behind that in our history. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't choose Abu Bakr Siddiq, the people did. He hinted, but he never chose. He let the people choose. Anyways, so now going back to Mu'adh bin Jabal. Where's Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu come here in the whole story? So anyhow, Abu Musa Ash'ari radhiyallahu anhu, he came, these two people were with him, they asked for a job, for a government job, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I don't give it to people who ask for it. Then he says to Abu Musa, go, I have appointed you to go to Yemen as the Qadi. So the one who didn't want it, got it right away. And the one who wanted it, have been pushed away. You're fired before you're even hired. Fired before you're hired. That's why he asked Abu Musa Ash'ari the question. What do you think about what they said? He wanted to see if he had that temptation too. Does he want it as well? Does he want the job as well? If he does, then he's not going to choose him. He realized that Abu Musa Ash'ari can't stand this. He's embarrassed by this. This is love for dunya. This is putting yourself in the hands of your nafs. So he said, this person is perfect for the job. So then he appointed Abu Musa radhiyallahu anhu to Yemen. Now we also mentioned about Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu being in Yemen. Right? So Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu went to Yemen. Yemen is not a little neighborhood. It's a big country. Right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent different people there to different tribes that had accepted Islam. So Abu Musa Ash'ari radhiyallahu anhu was sent to one tribe, may have been his Ash'ari tribe, we don't know. And Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu was sent to another tribe in Yemen. Not too far from each other, in the same place, but of course far away from Central Arabia, from Hijaz, Makkah Mukarramah and Medina Munawwara. So Abu Musa Ash'ari radhiyallahu anhu went and he started his work that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam appointed him to in Yemen. And soon after, the riwayah of Muslim mentions that he sent Mu'adh bin Jabal, which means that Mu'adh bin Jabal went when Abu Musa Ash'ari was already in Yemen. Okay. Now that doesn't seem so important. Because Mu'adh bin Jabal comes really at the tip end of the story. But there's something important that comes at the very end of this that's very important. So when Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu reaches Yemen and he meets his Sahabi brother, Abu Musa Ash'ari radhiyallahu anhu, what is the first thing you think they talk about? So Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu arrives in Yemen. He meets Abu Musa Ash'ari radhiyallahu anhu. And Abu Musa Ash'ari radiallahu anhu, according to the riwayah mentions, tells him, please, descend your mount, come, join me. We're going to eat together. What's the discussion that they have? Here's the riwayah. The riwayah says, ثُمَّ تَذَاكَرَ الْقِيَامَ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. And they started talking about, discussing qiyamul layl. Meaning, how much do you stay awake the night? And how much do you recite? And he's talking about how much time he spends in the night doing the dhikr of Allah, doing qiyamul layl, doing praying tahajjud, how many rak'ahs he prays, how much he recites. This is their discussion. The discussion of the Sahaba. And this is their meeting after a long time. فَقَالَ أَحَدُمَا مُعَاذ. So what does Mu'adh say? He says, أَمَّا أَنَا. As for me, فَأَنَامُ وَأَقُومُ وَأَرْجُو فِي نَوْمَتِي مَا أَرْجُو فِي قَوْمَتِي. As for me, here's how I spend my night. I sleep a portion of the night, and I do qiyamul layl a portion of the night. وَأَرْجُو فِي نَوْمَتِي مَا أَرْجُو فِي قَوْمَتِي. And I have hope for reward in my sleep, just like I have hope for reward in my qiyamul layl. What he means to say is that I use my sleep as a means to do qiyamul layl. Because if I am fresh after I wake up, then I can perform qiyamul layl properly. So since the sleeping is a means of me praying my qiyamul layl properly, I have full hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He will give me reward, equal reward for sleeping as He will for qiyamul layl. That's why I make sure I sleep and I also do qiyamul layl. I don't just do qiyamul layl the whole night. Right? And it's just like wudu. Wudu is also a wasila, right? A means of praying salah. You don't have wudu, you can't pray salah. So you hope that by performing wudu, that you'll get the same reward that you get for salah, because wudu is the key to the salah. So sleeping is the key to doing qiyamul layl. You have proper sleep, then you can wake up on time. You go to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning and you want to wake up for tahajjud at 5 o'clock, and you haven't slept for over 15, 16, 17 hours. Are you going to wake up? You're probably not going to wake up for fajr. Forget about tahajjud. Right? So the way Mu'adh radiallahu, first thing we learn about this is that Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu, like all the Sahaba ridwanullahi majma'in, this was just a main component of their life. Just like they used to do work in the day, they used to do qiyamul layl in the night. That was their work in the night. All Sahaba prayed tahajjud, without exception. They all prayed qiyamul layl. 5 times salah is a given. The sunnahs are a given. Sunnahs before dhuhr, sunnahs after maghrib, sunnahs after isha, sunnah before fajr. Those are all given. Besides that, the tahajjud was a main component of their life. It was an essential element of their life. But how they prayed it was different. Some prayed it one way, some another way, some spent more time. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh, for example, had divided his night into 3 parts. One part, he would pray tahajjud, then he would go to sleep. Then his wife would wake up, and she would pray tahajjud. And then she would wake up the servant, and she would go to sleep, the servant would wake up. That way, the whole night in that house, somebody was praying tahajjud. The idea was to make sure that somebody's praying tahajjud at every part of the night. 1/3 he was doing it, 1/3 the wife, and 1/3 the servant. That was the way they did it. Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu, he had a portion for sleeping, he had a portion for qiyamul layl. Now let's go to the miracle. Remember I mentioned about the miracle? So this rawaya is from Sahih Muslim. And it's narrated by Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu, and it's related to the Ghazwa of Tabuk. when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went out to Tabuk. It's a very long rawaya. We don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm not going to go into the first part, but he talks about how in the Safar, while they were on the journey, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam combined Dhuhr, Asr and Maghrib and Isha because obviously they were travelers and you're allowed to. It's just a difference of opinion of how you're going to combine. We don't need to get into that aspect of it. Just the fact that Mu'adh bin Jabal Radhi-Allahu anhu narrated that, we were on the way and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam combined the Dhuhr, Asr and Maghrib and Isha. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Innakum satatuna ghadan insha'Allah ayna Tabuk." Tomorrow, you're going to arrive at the Ain of Tabuk. Now, Ain means eye, but Ain also means pool of water. Pool of water. Pool of water doesn't mean like, the pools where you Olympic-sized pools where you practice for the Olympics or something, right? Or it doesn't even mean your normal residential-sized pools. Pool of water means even a small, little, shallow hole of water. That's it. Filled with water. So that could be also a pool. Small pool of water, big pool of water, they're all called pools of water. They're called Ain in Arabic. وَإِنَّكُمْ لَن تَأْتُوهَا حَتَّى يُضْحَ النَّهَارِ. You will not reach there until tomorrow morning before the noon time. Before noon, you'll reach there. فَمَنْ جَاءَ مِنْكُمْ. Whoever arrives there earlier, فَلَا يَمُسَّ مِنْ مَائِهَا شَيْءٍ حَتَّى آتِي. Don't touch the water from that pool until I arrive. Don't touch it. Even though it was sweltering hot, because the Tabuk expedition took place when? In the summer. It was extremely hot. And they were in the middle of the desert. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is warning them. You get there, you're tempted, you want to, don't touch it until I get there. Which means that the caravan was moving, but they were not all along the same pace, right? Some were going faster, some were slower. So Mu'adh bin Jabal radhiyallahu anhu says, فَجِئْنَهَا وَقَدْ سَبَقَنَا إِلَيْهَا رَجُلًا. We reached there, and two men had already arrived there before everyone else. And when we arrived, the Ain, that pool of water, was مثل الشراك تبض بشيء مما. It was like the lace of a shoe. The pool of water was a lace of a shoe. In other words, very little water. Barely any water, and tabidu means like flowing. So there was a little bit of water flowing, but it was very little. Very little. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked those two men who had arrived at the pool before everyone else, "Hal masastuma min ma'iha shay'in?" Did you touch the water? They said yes. They said yes. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very unhappy. He said, "I told you not to." فَسَبَّهُمَا. He admonished them. I told you not to touch the water. You still touched it. Mu'adh bin Jabal then says, قَالَ لَهُمَا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ يَقُولُ. Rasulullah said to them, whatever Allah wished, he said. Whatever Allah wished for him to say, he said that. So we don't know exactly what he said, but he wasn't very happy. Because they didn't follow his instructions. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the order. ثُمَّ غَرَفُوا بِأَيْدِهِمْ مِنَ الْعَيْنِ قَلِيلًا قَلِيلًا. He told them to take handfuls of water from the pool and put it in a bowl. So they brought a bigger bowl, and the Sahaba were taking little handfuls of water from the pool and putting it in the bowl of water. There was very little of it. So maybe 3-4 handfuls, 5 handfuls at the most, until a little bit of water had collected in the bowl of water. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam washed his hands and he washed his face right over the bowl of water, so that whatever he washed, that water would go back into the bowl. So the water that came off of his face and his hands went back into the bowl of water. And suddenly, فَجَرَتِ الْعَيْنُ بِمَاءٍ مُنْهَمِرٍ. Suddenly, that water was just coming out, gushing out like a fountain. It was gushing out like a fountain. بِمَاءٍ مُنْهَمِرٍ. Munhamir is referring to an ayah of Quran Kareem, meaning that it was flowing water. Suddenly it was a lot of water. حَتَّى اسْتَقَى النَّاسِ, until people all quenched their thirst and they even fed their animals. Then, here's the miracle. He says, Yushiku, and he's speaking to Mu'adh. He said, Ya Mu'adh. So Mu'adh is close to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam at the time while this is all happening. He's watching it. He says, In talat bika hayatun. If Allah blesses you with a long life, antara ma hahuna qad muli'a jinanan. A time will come when you will see that this place is filled with gardens. Right now it's in the middle of the desert, but a time will come when this place will be filled with gardens. It will be populated. People will come. And indeed, that's what happened. Right now you go to Tabuk. And Tabuk is not just a part of the desert, a big patch of the desert. Now it's a city that's thriving and flourishing. In fact, I asked the brother I mentioned yesterday, I asked the brother who had been to this landmark, this specific landmark where the Ain was. And he said, now that is located near downtown Tabuk. The fact that Tabuk even has a downtown, right, where at once this whole place was just all desert, is a fulfillment of this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Very soon it's going to be an international city. May Allah protect us all, inshallah. Inshallah, we'll continue this tomorrow. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Jazakumullah khair.